The prophet translated it in less time than that. So don't be too proud of yourself. Quite miraculous, really, through the gift and power of God. We have a lot of suggestions about how it was done. We know that they had a table like this. We know they had the golden plates covered usually, and Joseph used these the Urim and Thummim, seer stones in the hat, and it was easier for him to see the light when he'd take that position.
By directing who will be given the authority of the priesthood, who will hold its offices, and how its rights and powers will be conferred. For example, a person who holds the priesthood is not able to confer his office or authority on another unless authorized by one who holds the keys. Without that authorization, the ordination would be invalid.
Following my remarks, the choir will conclude by singing, "Where Can I Turn for Peace?" I wonder who organized this program to think I was going to stir up conflict. The benediction will then be offered by Elder F. David Stanley of the 70. Thank you, brethren, for the efforts you've made to come to this great worldwide priesthood meeting. Wherever you may be, we thank you and commend you for your faith, for your loyalty to this, the work of the Lord, for the efforts you make in your daily living to be worthy of the sacred priesthood which you bear. This morning we all participated in a solemn assembly. That is just what the name indicates. It is a gathering of the membership, where every individual stands equal with every other in exercising with soberness and in solemnity his or her right to sustain or not to sustain those who, under the procedures that arise out of the revelations, have been chosen to lead. The procedure of sustaining is much more than a ritualistic raising of the hand. It is a commitment to uphold, to support, to assist those who have been selected. I repeat what Brother Faust quoted earlier concerning the first presidency, of whom the Lord said, of the Melchizedek priesthood, 3 presiding high priests chosen by the body, appointed and ordained to that office, and upheld by the confidence, faith, and prayer of the church. I emphasize those words, upheld by the confidence, faith, and prayer of the church. Your uplifted hands in the solemn assembly this morning became an expression of your willingness and desire to uphold us, your brethren and your servants, with your confidence, faith, and prayer. I am deeply grateful for that expression. I thank you, each of you.
This is an occasion of great significance for members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints throughout the world. Dating from October 10th, 1880, when John Taylor was sustained to succeed Brigham Young as prophet, seer, and revelator, and President of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
The ordination would be invalid.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. I stayed up late to watch the rest of Zoe, and so I'm going to record this video tonight and then work on it tomorrow evening. So, Section 28 of the Doctrine and Covenants. All right, the core. The former Mormon, is it Aaron Eckhart? Is that his name? There's a scene in there where Aaron is made aware of certain anomaly conditions that are happening around the earth on the news. And so he has his students do up an earth model and the locations of where these events are occurring, and he comes to the conclusion that the core of the earth has stopped and is causing the electrical malfunctions that are going on. And so he does a full professional write-up of his evidence and the tests and the conclusions from the test, the confirmations, and goes to the one who works for the government, consultant for the government in this particular field, and catches him as he comes out of a lecture. And Zelensky believes that it's another groupie fan who wants the signature from him, and he takes the folder and begins to sign it. And Aaron has to step in and say, no, you really need to read that. Zelensky says, don't you know who I am? And you really need to read this. Why is it so important? Is it the end of the world? Yeah. So that gets his attention, and at least checks it out. And he can't find anything wrong with the premises that lead to the conclusion. He doesn't want to believe it, but. And so Aaron gets brought in on the unobtainium made right here in the state of Utah. And so the point of this is that there are professionals in the field who are not professionals. There are those who are professionals, but because of people who are not professionals, they get sidelined. And then there are those who are not professionals and have no knowledge on the subject matter and claim to be professionals. And they get popular with social media. And the professionals in the various fields get downplayed on the search engines, whether it's Google search or social media. And so people tend to listen to the professional, or the popular stuff, because they're recommended, and then are left to choose, because they're not professionals either and they don't know. They then have to make a decision as to whether to believe it or not. And then you have psychologists from Nazi Germany who have been thanking their American liberators ever since, who have caused on social media reactions, responses, as non-professionals to other people's opinions and claims. And then this is being taken into the professional realm of government. Instead of asking about government policy and law, people are asking, Senator so-and-so called you a bleep bleep. What's your response? That's not news. But the news is transitioning to this psychological manipulation from Nazi Germany thanking their American liberators ever since. So, AI emerges. AI lies. It is incapable of telling you the truth. We know this. The news started off the AI push by showing that it's not reliable. The humans coding, Mackenzie, are you listening? The AI programs are putting in false information. And AI is not an intelligence. It only regurgitates the programming put into it by a human. And so we're even being lied to about AI, calling it AI, because it's not AI. It's a malware virus. It's a national security threat. It's a fraud, consumer fraud. And it's been forced into everybody's system across the whole world. And as a result, nobody can trust what truth is anymore. Nobody can rely on professionals. Well, AI said this, doctor. What do you know? Tylenol causes autism. AI said so. And people are getting hurt, and people are dying from this falsehood of AI. Just like a TikTok challenge. And I've been going over with you the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on AI. They're incapable of telling us the truth that is quoted in the scriptures. And yeah, the church too. Not just AI. The Mormon programmers into AI about the church are lying. So now, the last one I did was, is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints the one and only true church on the face of the whole earth? Yes. Yes, it is. Because a Mormon coded Google's AI to say that response when anybody types it in. A Mormon, not AI. It's not AI. It's a fraud. That's what nobody understands because they're calling it AI. So, Joseph Smith, Section 28. We are aware for the first time of Joseph Smith having to deal with a Mormon who thinks he can use a rock in a hat and get revelation for the whole church. Hiram Page. This was September, no date, Bruce? 1830. Hiram Page married into the Whitmer family. Oliver Cowdery would eventually go on, I'm not sure what year, what month, after the church was formed at least, another daughter of the Whitmers. Hiram Page, I believe, is one of the 10 witnesses as a result of this family connection. I guess we can check this. Preface, explanatory testimony of the 12 apostles. Probably be with the Book of Mormon instead of Doctrine and Covenants. So, introduction, Book of Mormon is not literal history. 3 witnesses, yeah, here we go. Oliver Cowdery, David Whitmer, Martin Harris. Hiram Page, yeah. 8 witnesses, not 10. Christian Whitmer, Hiram Page, Jacob Whitmer, Joseph Smith Sr., Peter Whitmer Jr., Hiram Smith, John Whitmer, Samuel H. Smith. Smith's Whitmers. And Hiram Page married into the Whitmers. And so Oliver Cowdery and David Whitmer, and then Martin Harris. Pretty small group in the beginning. So, the church did not tell us when I was in seminary that Joseph Smith had a rock and a hat. Even the Ensign magazine covers showed Joseph Smith looking at the Book of Mormon plates and rendering a translation directly from them. And so it was not until 2015, 2016, when they reopened the church history museum across at Temple Square there, with the Joseph Smith history thing, that they showed the rock and a hat picture, just one. South Park had different rocks. And the plates that you could try to see if you could lift them. And of course, they were 50 pounds, so yes, they were easy to lift. They had to bring it out special for me because they didn't want to bring them out for everybody, because you had to have one of the missionaries there making sure that nobody vandalizes it or abuses it or tries to steal them. Render another interpretation. But they brought it out just for me to see them. So yeah, first time I ever knew about that. But it didn't bother me, because I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew. I knew Joseph Smith was an actual translator of Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian. So I didn't have a faith crisis. I wasn't concerned, because I knew the truth. I am a professional in the field of Mormonism too, because of the work I've done with my research. It's not just going to church that makes me a professional in Mormonism. That doesn't make you a professional at all, actually. All you know is your experiences. That's it. You don't know Mormonism. So Hiram Page, one of the 8, not 10, married into the Whitmer family and is using a rock and a hat. And he's professing, as Bruce R. McConkie tells us, referring to the history of the church, which the church no longer publishes anymore because they have the Joseph Smith papers with the original documents, that he was receiving revelations by its aid concerning the upbuilding of Zion and the order of the church. Now, all priesthood holders get taught this, and in connection with section 43 of the Doctrine and Covenants as well, where elders believe they knew better than Joseph Smith. And authority plays a big part in this. Section 107, verse 91 and 92 says that only the head of the church has the gifts of spirit: seer, prophet, revelator, translator. Only him. The living prophets of Jesus all have them, Travis. How did they get them? They deny the powers thereof. Did you know that? Have you been listening to my videos right before conference where I say pay attention to the sustaining vote? And then after the conference sustaining vote, I then do the video segment for conference every single time. All these years. See, I told you. They deny translator. They don't want it. They don't care about it. But the rest are just titles. They have their official First Presidency church statement. We deny the gifts of prophet, seer, revelator. And then Benson's First Presidency statement on the King James Version of the Bible. Yeah, we ain't going to translate. The Book of Mormon plagiarizes the King James Version of the Bible, errors and all, so that's the one we're using. We're not even going to touch the Book of Abraham and finish up the Book of Joseph. We're not going to go to the Egyptian documents and get those translated. We're not going to fulfill Ezekiel 37. We're going to instead say it's the Book of Mormon. We're not going to do it. And Mormons stay Mormon, despite their confessions that they're not true. They have no authority because they don't have the gifts and they deny them. Plus, they've got the wrong keys to be the head of the church. And if you don't know, look it up. I gave you the reference. But Joseph Smith is the one who has that authority. He has the gifts. I've run the test on him by deciphering Paleo-Hebrew and Egyptian, going back to Joseph Smith stuff. Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I see what he's doing here. Yeah, he did switch the wife and the spouse, the married couple. Flipped them around. But yeah, Hatshepsut. Yeah, she's the pharaoh behind the throne. Interesting. I don't think I pronounced her correctly. The mother of David Moses, the third of Armageddon 1, putting his foot on the Mount of Salem, splitting the mountains in the war. That Pharaoh David Moses the third, from whom the Jews say that Emmanuel will be the man like David Moses the third. Emmanuel ben David Moses the third, the Messiah, the Christ, of the Ammon priesthood of the 18th dynasty. So I know Joseph Smith is true. So I know anybody else interpreting Joseph differently is false. You know, like his visions as literal histories. You're false. I ran the test. They are visions, just like he said they were. For seer. That's why he's a seer, is because of his powers as a seer for visions. They are not literal histories. And it is horrifying that Mormons don't believe this. Mormons draw near to Joseph Smith with their lips, but they deny him as a seer, prophet, revelator, and translator with the keys of the Christ. And so, this stuff comes naturally to me. And as a result, I tend to forget other people didn't go into this field of study. That it therefore isn't obvious to other people. Even though it's a no-duh Captain Obvious moment. Joseph Smith said vision. You should have at least trusted that, even though you don't know the gift of seership. I've got 11,000 videos retelling the same stuff in different presentations, hoping that one of them will eventually click for people. And there are about 5 that it's clicked for and who follow me regularly. They don't get offended because they know what's going on. If you're offended, it's because you don't know, and instead of humbling yourself and wanting to learn, you make excuses not to learn, to deny the truth. So Hiram Page doesn't know that Joseph Smith did not use the rock and a hat for the Book of Mormon. He is not using the rock and a hat for how to build and design and run Zion. He doesn't know the gifts. He only knows because Martin Harris believed that Joseph used a rock and a hat for the Book of Mormon. That's as far as it goes. And so Hiram Page, well, let me see if I can do it. Oh, look, this is how we need to build a Zion. And there's also another thing that needs to be involved as to why Joseph Smith was using a rock and a hat from the well that he dug at Martin Harris's farm before it all hit the fan. Is that his daddy taught him this. It's a kid's game because it's not real. And it goes back to when Senior was with the New Israelites in Vermont. There was a Justice Winchell who wanted to become a member so that he can practice spiritual wifery. And so he tried to impress the members to get him in because they had to vote for him to become a member. They have to want to have sex with him to join their orgy fest in order you can't just show up and say, I want to be baptized. Where's my wives? There were Congregationalists, And that's why that Congregationalists believe in a person having their own conviction from attending their meetings as often as occasion would permit. And as an adult, not a child, you then say to the membership, I'm interested in becoming a Congregationalist. And then they will interview him and how often have you been attending church? How well are you picking up on the lessons? Do you pay a full tithe? Do you wear the underwear night and day? And if the person shows that he really has a desire to be a Congregationalist, they will vote him in. And that is how that worked for the Congregationalists. But Senior had no interest in becoming a member. The Book of Mormon condemns polygamy, even has the rewritten 116 pages condemnation of polygamy in Jacob, or by Jacob. I think it's in Jacob too, or Jacob, whether it's in chapter 2, I'm not going to look it up. So there is no evidence that Senior was a member, but he was very skilled with the divining rod of Justice Winchell, as the people in the surrounding town referred to him as a master rodsman. But again, he never used it to get rich because it doesn't work. People don't get that. There are those who know that the family would go out and look for buried treasure, as they suppose. Some of that is confusing the different claims and accusations. But it never made them rich. They were booted out of Vermont for their poverty. You're not allowed to be poor and non-contributing in Vermont. They weren't going to, provide you with the government dole. You're out. And that's why they moved to Palmyra. And so that's why Senior taught it to his kids. Another family related to Lucy Mack is the Cowdreys. They also, Senior at least, William Cowdrey, I believe it is, went to the same New Israelites. Likewise, did not become a member. But we know from the Doctrine and Covenants, more clearly from the original one that was written, not the altered one by Brigham Young's religion or the church in 81. I'd have to go back to the different changes in the Doctrine and Covenants to see which one screwed it up. But the rod of Aaron for Oliver Cowdery. Yeah, because his dad taught him as well. It's a kid's game. So that's what Joseph is referring to in the Doctrine and Covenants for Oliver Cowdery. So when Oliver Cowdery and Joseph Smith know about this divining stuff as kids, and Martin Harris believes that it's so true, because they needed the money to pay for the book. And I've given you the background history on why. We're not going over that. Hiram Page being married into the Whitmer family when Joseph and Oliver go to the Whitmer family. The Book of Mormon's completed. Joseph Smith just barely got off of timeout. because he didn't write the Book of Mormon. He didn't dictate it to Martin Harris. Again, the backstory that I'm not going to go over again. But if there's any of you who know about the incorrectly constructed theory that Sidney Rigdon's the major author of the Book of Mormon, yeah, as long as you fix the theory, you dumbasses. That's why I'm the one who figured out that Senior rewrote the 116 pages and the Joseph Smith translation to pay Sidney Rigdon back for his service. That's why Sidney Rigdon was Joseph's number one, along with Oliver Cowdery. Until Oliver Cowdery, I ran into some issues of Mormons who are rewriting things, so I can't trust it, and I'd have to do a research again on Oliver Cowdery, because originally I was led to understand that he wanted to take the church into a certain direction and was unhappy that Joseph wouldn't go for it. But it's the same concept here with Hiram Page. And that led me to believe that Oliver Cowdery, even though he was involved with the original project, didn't understand the origin for it. So that's also interesting. That only Sidney Rigdon, Joseph Smith, Jr., and Sr. were the three men who knew the full secret. Oliver Cowdery was just helping out as scribe. Sidney Rigdon. And then the babysitter for Joseph to help spread the word that Joseph had done the work. And letting the Whitmers believe that they were still working on it with the month that they had left to finish. To do the whole thing. Section 10 is the wrong year. It's 1829, not 28. Joseph Smith is that more impressive. You think the church would be okay with that? Yeah, Joseph Smith did it in about a few weeks. Instead, they want to insist that it's 1828, and so therefore it was about several months. No. Nope. The Book of Mormon was finished. They were transferring it to the copper plates to take to the print press. So, that's why it was necessary to bring back Martin Harris to see if he knew if it was safe to bring out the Book of Mormon, and if he would again agree. And so, yeah, they made him feel like crap because he stole the documents. He's a wicked man. So, yeah, sell your farm, you bleeping bleeper. Pay for this book that you ruined for us. Okay? And so Hiram Page is under this belief that the rock and a hat divining thing is all real. And it's not. What they're talking about with the gift and power of God is seer, prophet, revelator, and translator. Joseph Smith had to learn translation in 1835 and 1836. He didn't know previously. He only knew Hebrew from his father at the New Israelites. And so most of you probably are aware of the Cowderies after the wood scrape of the New Israelites. It's fascinating because he believed he saw a sign in the heavens of the avenging angel on America, and he was wrong. Alpheus Cutler, a part of the Quorum of High Council. When Joseph Smith was assassinated and he split off from Brigham Young, he claimed that Joseph Smith told him to wait for a sign in the heavens to restore the church. And he rushed it by starting the church under a certain sign in the heavens. I believe it was 1857 maybe is coming to mind, but I'd have to check Alpheus Cutler's information again. But I did the check on my Urim and Thummim, rocks in a hat, right there, probably hidden behind the camera. And sure enough, oh, okay, I can see what you're trying to go for here, but you're wrong. But again, he thinks by looking at the rocks in a hat, wait, you use rocks in a hat, Travis? I just got through telling you it's not real. You're not listening. There are people who think that not experienced and practiced, that they can go forward and do stuff, claiming things that they're stupid about. They're not experienced, they're not trained, they're not educated, they're getting it wrong. Hiram Page is getting it wrong. He doesn't know. So, Joseph Smith did scriptures specifically to try to teach Mormons how to be a seer, how to be a prophet, how to be a revelator, how to translate. Getting all excited. And Mormons couldn't do it. Still to this day, Mormons can't do it. But mostly this day because Brigham Young turned everything into literal history and denied the powers. Then gave his apostles the titles. You never thought of that? Only Joseph Smith, and yet all 15 have the titles? Except for translator? That never occurred to you, huh? See, it's those kinds of simple, basic things that Mormons miss that gets me frustrated with the level of illiteracy and stupidity of Mormons who remain Mormon. Even those who leave left because, no, I am not okay with polygamy and child rape and adultery. I'm out. No, I am not okay with witchcraft. I'm out. But they don't care to know what the truth was because they believe the lie that the church is now claiming is true after confessing they lied or confessing that they're abominable. Yeah, our founder is an adulterer and raped little kids. Church is so true. Do you want to pay tithing now? Or should we schedule it for Saturday? Nobody cares to know the truth. It's all the same false dichotomy that's going on across our nation. People hear lies from people who are not authorized, not professionals, who become popular, and it's a matter of opinion, feeling, choosing to believe or not believe. And that's wrong. So I step forward and I fix everything, and nobody's listening because the church shut me down. Oh, crap. He just humiliated us with his 40,000 view video from 2017. Shut him down, Mac. Shut him down. But I love him. I can change him. I can help him reach his potential. Just let me try. No. Shut him down now. So, you have to know what you're doing. Because I've done the videos referring to Zion and the economy. But I don't come out and explain it in certain videos. I refer to it. There'll be a different economy in Zion. So I get a comment from a believer who follows and says, I know the exact economy that we can use for Zion. It'd be so awesome. Contact me if you want to learn more. See ya. But instead, I replied back, did you reference 2 Nephi chapter 26? No monetary system of economy in Zion, or it will fail. Never heard back from him since. That was years ago. He thought he knew better, and he doesn't have the gifts nor the keys to design, build, and run Zion. Only I do. Because of the little incident that the church caused to me in 2008. I had a dream. Not a literal history. That is my first vision, shall we say. Even though I had that big 86 dream and then the follow-up dream the next month. The summer of 86. I had just become a priest, and thus the ministering of angels. Dreams. Ta-da! And so it's not seer, it's just for your own personal self. The seer, as the head of the church, gets inspiration for the church, for everybody. The design, building, and running of Zion is exclusive information. I've been trying to share it with you, but specifically at the end of my hours-long videos, so that I weed out the swine. But the Strengthening Church Members Committee are forced to watch my videos all the way through and give a report to the quorum of the corporate board. As Cook is expected to be the one in charge now that D. Todd is in this quorum, first quorum of seven, or the first presidency. So this is why I condemn the leaders of the church, specifically Oaks now. When Nelson was alive, I condemned him. My focus was on showing to everyone he's not authorized. He's lying. He doesn't have the gifts. And now Oaks. Same thing. And I get to use Oakes' own quotes from conference against him. I warned him I was waiting. And I'm still way behind on doing those videos. But as he comes out with new stuff, I make sure to do the new stuff and get it filed correctly. Nonetheless, it's because I know. I have authority. I have the gifts. Therefore, no one else has them. But I'm trying to teach people. So, in the video I did today, Ancient Origins of LDS Mormon Church, Temples, and Holy of Holies. Near the end, 1 hour, 21 minutes in, I am going over how to get the gift of revelation, the day and the hours from Scripture. From Joseph Smith, who is teaching us. And Augusto has been around for a little while, and he comments, and he doesn't really understand my channel. He believes he's Yosef. Nonetheless, he hasn't crossed the line yet. There are many who have come claiming to believe that I am true and that they like what I'm saying and they're following and they're commenting and participating, and then they cross the line showing that they're not learning. You're out. You're wasting my time, and I will not post stupidity on my channel videos. I hold all comments for review, not just to keep out the hate comments that YouTube won't flag, but attacking other people who I've approved a comment for. Because YouTube's setup will not allow me to see people's chain links on my videos. And so I will not allow people to bully and abuse other people, especially me and my video content. You will not use it for your platform. You've got your own channel, use it. I will stay away from you. Why are you coming to me? But Augusto pulled something that really pisses me off that I did the explanation at the beginning for. He says, some people say that this same stellar alignment, some people, just a hypothetical friend, I know about this tactic. You're pissing me off when you say this. Some people, you're not going to give a name. Are they a professional in the field? Because the answer is no if you're saying some people. Saying some people means it's you. You're pissing me off. And I haven't even read the rest of it. I don't know what you're saying yet. You've pissed me off at the beginning. Because your words are a red flag for what I have already come to learn. That the same stellar alignment occurred. And I tell you in this video, it only happens once. Right now, go outside. Obviously you can't, and it'll be done when the sun is up. Unless you're in a place where the sun isn't up. and somehow watching my video. Hi. Is it Russia? Are you still listening to my videos? The stellar arrangement right now never happened before and will never happen again. The stellar arrangement right now never happened before and will never happen again. The stellar arrangement right now will never happen before and will never happen again. Is this too complicated for you? There is no resetting of everything to zero, and then it starts over again. Anybody know why? This is Basic Astronomy 101. The Earth spins at a certain rate and tilts. And so the North Pole keeps changing. The Egyptians have a Sothic calendar as a result. And so the Sothic calendar is 1,000 something years when it changes. But because of the tilt with the changing of the North Pole, that keeps changing. And so nothing is the same, ever. It's a once in a lifetime thing. And like I say in this video, the sun in Virgo 2,000 years ago when it was written was the middle of August to the middle of September. Not now when it's the middle of September to the middle of August or October. It's different because of the tilting. And so when people who refuse to give a name of a professional, who then make a dumbass comment that is an outright contradiction of what I said, to deny what I said, and then you go and you give a date, which I know it can't be because you denied what I said. You didn't run the test. You're asking this question out of ignorance, claiming it's somebody else who's ignorant that you heard. And you're asking for my response and my reaction. I should have just banned you. You are not understanding my video content. You're not getting it. You're wasting my time. And so he's claiming that it's Mormons who are making this claim. Or a Mormon, even though he says some people. It's most likely one person who obtained the same stellarium.org Urim and Thummim that I have. And they're illiterate because they're claiming that Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5 is the 23rd of September, 1827. It's repeated. It can be repeated. This is why people who are not professionals should stay out and learn from professionals until the apprentice becomes the master. That's why you're supposed to follow me to become the masters. See, Idaho Chick has become the master in predicting earthquakes. And what was the other one that you did right after the earthquake? I've forgotten already. And yeah, the guy that's been with me before I even changed to do all this type of video content, he too is aware of earthquakes. He has his Urim and Thummim for earthquakes. He gave me a free version of it. And he also was given a stellarium, and he points out, he used to, I haven't seen him do that lately. He'll sometimes do pictures with it, but yeah, in the beginning he was all into the Urim and Thummim for the signs and heavens. And he's trying to learn Hebrew and Egyptian, so he does that. So yeah, I see when people are learning or trying to learn. There's a big difference between Augusto. And so I knew this isn't true. That September 23rd, 1827 is not Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5. But again, he's claiming that Mormons believe that it's connected to Joseph Smith receiving the gold plates of the Book of Mormon, which would be the day after. Just want to scream. Just want to scream. But again, he's claiming that there are Mormons out there who are doing YouTube videos who are claiming to have the gift of Revelator with the Urim and Thummim, just like Hiram Page, and they are rendering their plan for Zion from it. And if the living prophets of Jesus found out, bye-bye, guys. Bye-bye. You're not in harmony. Only the living prophets of Jesus can do this. Even though it's the official church's statement that they can't. So, I nonetheless, in order to respond, rather than ban him for his stupidity, because this is a potential video that I could do. Ta-da! So yes, I again got the sign in the heavens. I already have it, but I can't find it in my phone. There's no way I'm going to find it anytime soon. It's not organized correctly. 1827, September 23rd. Pulled out the rocks in a hat, looked at them. How did I know? The reason why they did it on the 23rd and not the 22nd is because the moon would not be at the feet yet. It would be at Spica with Jupiter. No duh. Joseph, in the second vision afterwards, for the 4 years, then goes on to talk about getting the plates on the 22nd. And thus the moon at Spica with Jupiter. That's what you're supposed to get from it, not the day after. Dear God. So already Joseph knows in 1838 how it all works. And that's why he went back in time to tell his vision. Because he didn't say it previously. So, on the government shoulders of Virgo is the sun for government. And there's Mercury making the announcement of the government. Joseph Smith. Jupiter. He's Messiah ben Joseph, the Christ, to set up the church and to get Mormons studied and prepared for the latter days. So Joseph Smith has to recreate things as a type and shadow similitude of the latter days for whom they're supposed to wait for. And sure enough, there's also Venus there in conjunction. Only Mars is in Leo, so that there's only 10 stars on her head, not 12. How mentally retarded do these Mormons have to be to not catch this? To completely botch the words of Revelation chapter 12, verse 1. This is obviously not true. Just sickening. And then this illiterate who doesn't have a Urim and Thummim, as he's claiming, is just making stuff up because he doesn't know what the other people are doing to make this up. They may have shown this picture, and they may have multi-thousands of viewers. And yet, all of them who believe have been made illiterate. So again, and Saturn, dear God, it's over in Gemini. It's not even anywhere near the throne of God. Dear God, this was a complete botched job. And you couldn't catch it? And you wonder what I'm thinking? Bleep you! Do not come to me with stupid people making claims. If we just stuck to the regular revelation and not the Joseph Smith translation, it's still the same, other than the added part for the vision. A woman. The sign in the heavens for the woman is Virgo. It's the designation of the brighter stars. The likeness of things on the earth of the vision is the woman of Virgo. Virgo is just stars as the sign in the heavens. You go out and you see Virgo, just stars. You don't see a woman out there. If you see a woman, go to a doctor immediately. A medical doctor, not a Nazi doctor thanking their American liberators. And so, clothed with the sun, no, the sun is in Virgo. Thus, the middle of September to the middle of October. The moon under her feet. That's why the dumbass waited until the 23rd rather than the 22nd, which was the actual sign. In 1827. And upon her head, Leo. 12 stars. So what makes you think that just Mars is going to be there? If you think that Leo has 12 and not 9, then it would be 13 stars. If for some stupid reason you say 11, so that Mars makes it 12, that makes you mentally retarded. Dear God. Seriously, you're recreating, rewriting astronomy now. You're destroying the science of astronomy so that you can make Joseph Smith so true and you can be popular and the church presidency will ignore you and promote you to become the next apostle because Oaks, now 2 weeks, hasn't filled it. I didn't do that video, but I put the picture in yesterday. Or the day before. I can't remember when it was. Probably the morning video from which this is about. And so, Virgo has a planet in her womb that's been retrograding for a pregnancy period. I've been going over this with you. This is the date of the birth of Jupiter as it passes Spica. And so it means that Jupiter would have a starting date of entering the womb for the pregnancy period, the likeness of things on the earth. That was back in November 2016. I still have to check to make sure that in 1827, I'd still have to check because it hasn't passed Spica yet. It could still be retrograding, but I'd have to check. So that's another thing nobody gets. It doesn't happen repeatedly. If it's still retrograding, then it's not born. It's a Braxton Hicks contraction that's fooling you. And so you're wrong. But if Joseph Smith is using it as it's clear he is, then yes, it is on its way out. But again, you can fact check it to see and find out. So yeah, what they did find is that Joseph Smith does use the signs in the heavens for his visions. And I've been trying to tell you that. You won't believe me. And yet this dumbass makes everybody believe that it's Revelation chapter 12. Because the other thing that I brought out in my comment, scathing comment to him, was that there are other signs with different dates here. Verse 3, and there appeared another sign in heaven. Great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his heads. Well, it's obviously serpents with the corona borealis on his head. But there's too many horns. There are 5 additional horns at the tail. Thus, 5 celestial bodies at the tail of serpents. And so sure enough, 17th of December 2017, the 5th, 5 additional, dark day of Hanukkah. Learn from the master before you can claim to be the master. Nobody has earned their black belt yet. Nobody is a Jedi master, despite my attempts and failures. And then verse 4, and his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven. He's been around long enough to have watched those videos where I show the picture. with the death of Nelson and the anniversary. And yet, dear God, this was when Monson died. The Jew who wrote this called out the death of the living prophet of Jesus. Do you know and understand how awesome this is? The tail of the dragon, the enemy, during the quadranted meteor showers, the third largest of the year. From the tail, a falling star of the inverted pentagram. And he's dead, cast down into the ground, buried in death. And a Jew 2,000 years ago called it. 10:01 p.m. It's awesome. You've got to be accurate. You can't just make stuff up. Because when you're accurate, the conclusion tells you. These other Mormons, they're making things up, and so they miss what's actually going on. That's why they don't have the gifts or the keys. I do. I keep putting that video or picture in my videos for you. Joseph Smith, section 107, verses 91 and 92. Me, section 107, verses 91 and 92. I've got the keys and the gifts of Joseph. Nobody else on earth, and definitely not Oaks. And so the reason why 5 gets moved to verse 3 with the first sign in the heavens, for Saturn, thus we know who the 3 stars in Leo to make 12 rather than 9 are. And Ophiuchus is the throne. That's the ancient Babylonians, you dumbass. You can't make stuff up. You can't call Gemini the throne of God. Because he's not. Pollux and Castor, something like that. They have a specific scriptures about them. You have to stick to the scriptures about them. And yeah, it's from the Greeks. Greeks are scriptures. Christians rejected it with the first creed of Christianity, turning them into literal history. Obviously, they're not literal history. So they're pagan, heathen, godless, antichrist. Burn them as witches. And so verse 7 is the interpretation in the Joseph Smith translation. The church is Joseph Smith's church. 23rd of September, 2017. It's not the Roman period. It's not the Babylonian period. It's not when David Moses came and put his foot on the mount. (2017). And Joseph Smith says it's his church. And therefore Jupiter is the Christ, born out of Joseph Smith's church. That's why he's preparing Mormons for the coming of the Mormon. To save Mormons from the great and abominable church, for which you will know which church it is if you still hadn't figured it out, on the 2nd of January 2018, when Monson dies, according to the prophecy. All Mormons now know the church ain't true, because you didn't run the test previously. Joseph Smith called it, technically senior, which is fascinating because he knows about the wood scrape. He knows that it failed. He knows all about this. He's given it to us. And yet he's given it to us here. It was a high-risk maneuver on his part. You know, being taught by a person who was wrong. And yet, he pulls off the greatest accomplishment after his previous great accomplishment of saving the United States of America from falling to the Illuminati. September 11th, 1826. And nobody knows about it because the church is lying about Joseph Smith Sr. They don't want people to know after I did the videos on church history about it. There are ex-foes who have done the research and make the connections, but they don't put it into a bigger picture for a theory as to what the real church history is about. You can't do that, guys. Stop it. You only have one piece of the puzzle. Put it together with the rest. And then you'll find out, okay, this we're wrong on. Get rid of that one. We got to figure out what it actually is that goes in this space. And etc. Then you find out it's a cat hanging from a tree that says, hang in there. Get the right pieces in the right place when you're developing a theory test to be tested. They don't do that because they don't know. They don't know how. So that's it. We're done. So yes, you can take this and then go back to 1827 and get it right, like I went over with you. They don't care. They won't do it. They don't know how, and they'll never come to this video unless Augustus is telling the truth that a person did a YouTube video on it. And then goes to him and say, Travis said this. What is your response? And then he'll get angry because he's popular, therefore he's true. Travis isn't even popular. Mm-hmm. Yeah, could you like to explain this to them, Max C? By all means, explain it. Joseph Smith gave you the answers, guys, and it ended up being me anyway. And here I am, still trying to teach you as well, and you don't care. Alright, almost won. I'm still not tired yet. I'm sure if I laid my head on the pillow, I'd go to sleep. But anyway. So just stop with this somebody else said such and such. Because I've banned other people before. I will not tolerate that. You have no interest in learning from me when you say that. It means you're not learning from me. Do not tell me what other people are saying. Unless it is something like Stanford. He'll refer to Candace Owens, for example, who makes a discovery and obtains video coverage of somebody other than Tyler Robinson. But you got to know how to. Too many Mormons just don't know. And the ex-Mormon who thought that Joseph Smith, oh dear God, that Helen Mar Kimball was his daughter, Joseph Smith's daughter. And he tried to mock with the wrong way to develop a theory. So I have to go over yet again and make the picture this time of all of the claimed weddings by proxy to Joseph Smith by Brigham Young, Heber C. Kimball, and a mass alignment. Because everybody is believing the lie. Nobody cares to know what the truth is. They're picking their side. So-and-so said this. Fawn Brody said this. In Sacred Loneliness said this. Rough Stone Rolling said this. The church says this. They're not authorities. They're not experts on church history. They don't know how to do research. They don't know how to study. They only put in hearsay and journal entries. That is not a primary source. You guys have no clue how to do it. Just stop. And you won't. And the world's going to end. And there will be no Zion. This is all going to go to waste. And that's what pisses me off.